The movie starts with a scene where a prisoner who escaped from jail is running through an empty factory. He breaks open a secret hiding place and takes out a suitcase with a stolen $1 million inside. At the same time, an 11-year-old boy named Preston is talking to his pet fish. He's upset because his older brothers are using his room to keep their stuff, and even took the jar with all his saved money. Their dad sees everything but doesn't say anything. He agrees with the older brothers because they are running a business and making money. Since he loves money, he's okay with them putting their things in Preston's room. One of the brothers says something interesting.
You as the goal makes the rules.
Then the dad brings a brand new Macintosh computer into the room. Preston quickly goes to the computer and starts using it. Later, the dad drives Preston to a birthday party at an amusement park for one of his classmates. Before leaving, he gives Preston $2 and tells him to enjoy himself and not hold back. At the party, troublemaker Butch started making fun of Preston. The other kids bought lots of tokens, but Preston could only buy 6.
6, please.
But the roller coaster needed 7 tokens, so Preston had to just watch while the others had fun and ride the small rides instead. Making fun of him became another game for the kids. At lunch, their dad happily asked if everyone had fun. Preston asked, "Why are we poor?" His parents told him they were just trying to control their spending. Preston didn't believe it. He thought, there must be another reason why I feel so sad. The older brothers went to a baseball game with lots of cash. Their dad even asked if they needed more money. But what Preston really wanted was money for his birthday. Then, his mom gave him a letter from his grandma. Instead of money, it was a check, but Grandma forgot to write the amount. Dad took the check and said, "How much did you get last year?"
1,000.
He filled in $11 after taxes. He told Preston to put it in the bank so it would earn interest. Preston did the math and said he would have $1 million in 342,000 years. Then he added, "buy my own house," to his birthday wish list and went to sleep. In the next scene, the escaped convict had cleaned up and went to the bank. His old partner, who had testified against him, worked there. The convict said the money he had was stolen and could be tracked by serial numbers. He wanted to trade it for fresh bills. He told the banker that tomorrow a man named Juice would come to the bank with a check for $1 million. The banker had to give the money to Juice in person. At the same bank, Preston arrived and saw a bank employee named Shay Stanley, who worked with young clients. Preston brought his $11 to open an account. But the minimum was $200, so he had to leave. He kept looking at Shay as he walked out. Meanwhile, the banker gave the convict some temporary checks. Just then, Butch stole the check from Grandma and rode away on his bike. Preston chased him and ended up falling, and his bike got run over by the convict's car. The convict tried to leave, but Butch shouted and a crowd gathered. The convict panicked and asked Preston how much money he wanted to stay quiet. Then, a police car drove by. The convict quickly signed a check and gave it to Preston, then drove off. Preston's parents punished him for damaging the bike and grounded him. He was tired of them always nagging him and wished he had his own house and his own rules. Then, he noticed the check wasn't filled out. He wrote his name on it. At first, he thought about writing $200, then $1,000, but finally wrote $1 million. Then, he happily went to sleep. The next morning, he went back to the bank to cash the check. The woman at the counter laughed but took him to see the manager, Berman. Berman saw the amount and signature and asked the teller to leave. He asked Preston,
"Juice?"
but Preston said, "I don't want any juice." He said the guy had hit him with a car. Berman laughed, burned the check, which confused Preston, then went to the vault and counted out $1 million. Just then, the Real Juice came to the bank with his own $1 million check. He was also sent to Berman. Preston now had a backpack full of money. On his way out, he bumped into Juice. Preston ran, and Berman told Juice everything went fine. But Juice got angry and threatened Berman. That's when Berman realized he made a big mistake. Preston felt like his dream came true. The first thing he wanted was a castle-like house. He called a realtor and used a voice changer to make a cash offer. He didn't know he was bidding against the same convict. Preston's mom overheard the deal and shouted a $300,000 bid, which made the convict furious. Preston knew he needed a fake name so no one would suspect him. He looked at his Apple computer and chose the name Macintosh. After buying the house, he shouted, "I'm rich." The convict and Juice pressured Berman, and he remembered giving a check to a boy with a bike. Then it turned out that Shay from the bank was actually an undercover FBI agent. She called the agency to report the people in Berman's office. Preston fully enjoyed his rich life and ran away from home. He ordered a limo and hired a driver named Henry. At first, Henry didn't believe a kid was his client.
The car, please. I'm waiting for a client here.
But I'm your client.
Oh, right, yeah.
But when Preston gave him cash, he opened the door. Preston went on a shopping spree. He bought a TV, stereo, massage chair, and cool toys. Henry became his partner in fun. One day, they ran into Jayne while she was jogging. Preston offered her a ride, saying the car belonged to Mr. McIntosh. She said she was busy. Preston then ordered tons of cookies and soda. Delivery trucks blocked the road. His dad came to check and was shocked to see Preston on top of a luxury house. Preston said he worked for Mr. McIntosh, who knew everything about the dad. Preston said one word, and the trucks left the street. He turned his backyard into a fun park and paid Henry to play games with him. But the FBI had marked the stolen cash, and someone named McIntosh had been spending it. Jayne noticed. The criminals looked for Preston at a big water park, but didn't find him. Meanwhile, Butch tried to sneak into Preston's mansion, but Preston had guards now. He said, "Remove the intruder," and the guards threw Butch out. Preston didn't need a water park, he had one at home. Jayne came to visit and said she wanted to meet Mr. McIntosh. She liked Preston's office and offered to open a bank account for him. He gave her $200. She asked if Mr. McIntosh would also like to open an account. Preston said he was busy but told her, "I'm always available for you," and offered to send a car for her that night. He asked Henry to prepare him for a date. Henry shared advice about women, saying they like strong men who protect them. Preston was still grounded, but he told his parents that Mr. McIntosh was interested in his school project and wanted to meet. His dad, loving money, allowed him to go. At the restaurant, Preston acted like a gentleman. He pulled out a chair for Jayne. She smiled. Jayne, still undercover, asked about Mr. McIntosh. Preston said his boss wanted him to give her a gift, but she refused because it was too expensive. She asked what Mr. McIntosh did. Preston had made question cards about her, like if she was married or how short her shortest boyfriend was. He leaned back too far, fell, and pulled the tablecloth down. Jayne laughed. Then they got burgers. Later, Preston led her to a plaza with a fountain. Water sprayed from the ground. Just then, the criminals saw them and chased them. Preston escaped in the limo. Jayne thanked him and accepted his invitation to Mr. McIntosh's birthday party. Preston didn't want to say goodbye to Jayne, but now he had to plan the party. Meanwhile, his parents started wondering. They kept hearing about Mr. McIntosh, but had never seen him. Even the older brothers said they were working for him. Still, Preston went all out for the party. He hired a professional event planner named Yvonne. Right away, Yvonne realized she was working with a kid who didn't understand money, but had a big budget. She saw a chance to make easy money. She raised the prices, knowing Preston wouldn't check the bills. She even reached into his backpack and took out a $1,000 deposit herself. Henry had to leave, and Preston was left with no one to play with. He had no real friends. Feeling lonely, he took some money and went to a city park. He sat on a bench and watched other kids playing tag and laughing. They didn't care about money or fancy things. They were just having fun. Preston felt sad. Even with all the money, he was still alone. Toys, mansions, limos, none of it could replace real friendship or the happiness of being a kid. Suddenly, the three criminals saw him again and chased him through the park. One of them almost caught him, but their car got stuck. Preston fell off his bike and dropped his backpack. Juice jumped at him, but missed. Another kid picked up the backpack, but Preston grabbed it back and gave the kid one bundle of cash. The criminals crashed their car.
It might be easier just to steal another $1 million.
But then they caught Butch. Yvonne had hired a big team to decorate the house, and the party was getting more and more expensive. Preston started to feel like everything was too much. The criminals grabbed Butch to get information. Butch hoped to be paid, but instead they hung him off a rooftop. Scared, Butch told them everything. Jayne showed up to the party. Preston met her at the door wearing a tuxedo. She hoped to finally meet Mr. McIntosh. Preston's brothers whispered that Jayne might only care about money. Every time she came, she asked about McIntosh. Yvonne had advertised the party in the newspaper, so many guests showed up. Henry watched and remembered the saying, "A fool and his money are soon parted." The gift table was full, but Preston was told to stay away. The gifts were for McIntosh. Preston kept looking for Jayne while she talked to other FBI agents. The tables were full of junk, and there was no ice cream. Yvonne gave Preston the final bill. He was shocked. The party had cost $100,000. He rushed to his office and checked his money. He only had $332 left. All the money was gone. Then his dad came into the office and asked the boss if Preston could go home early. He said Preston had been working too hard and that money had become too important. He said he had taken away Preston's childhood. Preston quietly said, "I want to go home."
Thanks.
But his dad had already left. Preston looked for Henry, but he was gone. Maybe he had only been around for the money. Shay came back to the office and asked again about Mr. McIntosh. Preston realized she only cared about the money, so he told her to leave. Then the criminals showed up at Preston's house, but it was empty. Butch led them to the castle instead. Back at the mansion, chaos had started. Yvonne was trying to find Mr. McIntosh for payment. When no one answered, she yelled that everything was canceled. The party was over. Preston grabbed the microphone and stood in front of all the surprised guests. In a shaky voice, he told everyone to leave. The guests didn't argue. Some took back their gifts. In minutes, the house was empty. Preston was alone again in a big house filled with useless things. Suddenly, someone knocked at the door. Preston froze, hoping it was Henry. But it was the criminals. They stormed in and demanded to know where McIntosh was. Preston told them the truth. McIntosh didn't exist. They were shocked. Then they got angry. They also learned something else. Preston had spent the entire $1 million in just 6 days. While they were confused, Preston escaped down the water slide. Juice followed and got caught in a trap. He got hit by baseballs. Preston hid from the gang leader behind tables. The criminal flipped the tables but ended up trapped inside a metal ball. Preston got into a toy car and rolled the ball across the lawn. He launched it into the pool. Then he panicked, thinking he had drowned the guy. But the criminal caught him. Just in time, the FBI burst in and saved Preston. They asked, "Who is McIntosh?"
Who's McIntosh?
Quigley, the gang leader, shouted, "I'm McIntosh," and told them to get off his property. He was arrested for fraud and money laundering. His 2 partners were also arrested. After that, Preston quietly walked up to Shay and asked her to show her FBI badge. She did without hesitating. Shay said,
Why don't you give me a call in, say, about 10 years?
Preston replied.
6. Okay.
She smiled and thanked him. Then Preston's dad came to pick him up. Outside, Henry was waiting. He hadn't left for good. He had just gone to buy Preston a huge tub of ice cream. The tub was bigger than Preston's head. At home, Preston's family had a cake ready. They asked him to make a wish. Preston looked at a picture of Shay and made his wish.